The review, as you are about to see, is the account of the tragedy which befell a group of action figures. It is all the more tragic in that they were plastic, but had they sat on the shelves a very, very long time, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and the macabre as they would see that day. For them, an idyllic review would soon become a nightmare. The events of that review were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of internet history. Outside the box reviews. Texas Chain Saw Week.
Hey, do you like head cheese? Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the Mezco Cinema Fear Wave 3 Hitchhiker figure. And of all the characters Mezco could possibly put into a Cinema Fear line, really freaking surprised they picked the Hitchhiker. And as I said in the last review, I was really liking the Texas Chain Saw 2 kind of theme Mezco was doing. And of course it makes sense to go back to the original, but I never felt like the Hitchhiker was interesting enough of a character that we'd really ever want to get him in plastic, but they made him, and I have him here to review. The Hitchhiker comes with his camera, which is a very old style looking camera. It looks really nice here though. They have the kind of bellowy extendy part here at the front, the actual lens, the flash bulb, the strap that's rubberized to go around his neck. I really don't remember what all goes into old cameras anymore. I'm too spoiled with having modern digital cameras, but I mean, you can see where you put the film in, the viewfinder. It's a really nicely sculpted little old-timey camera. He also comes with a bag. I think he was carrying this when he first got picked up when he was hitchhiking. Just a big hollow sack, nice tan brown. There's some kind of darker shading over top of it. The top here is curved so you could have him holding it. Nothing really too special, but a nice little piece. It's also very hollow. You can see if you squeeze it, there's a little place where air shoots out at the bottom. He comes with a straight razor, and unlike the straight razor we got with Chop Top, this is just molded in one solid piece, but it's also a lot thinner. So we do have the blade there at the end, a nice silver, and the black handle there, some more detailing on it. We even have the groove in there where the blade would retract into, so it almost makes it feel like it should move, but it definitely doesn't. And then maybe one of the tiniest knives I've ever gotten with a horror figure. Very, very tiny. We got some blood on the blade there. I think this is what he carves his hand with in the van that makes him get kicked out. Some little detailing there on the handle of it. And then once again, it's a retractable knife, or designed to look like a retractable knife, so it has the slot it would fold into, but does not move. Now I remember when I was first starting to collect Cinema Fear figures, I mostly got them in my local Spencer Gifts, and this guy was such a peg warmer. Nobody wanted him. And looking at this face, I could see absolutely why. Hitchhiker did have some weird facial expressions and just some weird mannerisms in general, but the sculpt here looks like they captured him in mid-belch. It's just really, really off-putting. There is some decent detail on his face. We have the birthmark coming down the one side of his face in a nice purple. His flesh tone's pretty well done. They even darken it up around some places to give it some depth. His eyes are well done, as well as his eyebrows. We got a little bit of blood coming off the top of his head, and some other specks on his head as well. The mustache is sculpted in there, but just the inside of his mouth is so strange looking, and the angle it's coming out as. It's just a very, very weird looking figure. Go around to the side, you can see his long, stringy hair. There's a little bit of shading in there, but not much. Looking down the rest of the figure, we have a hard sculpted on bag around his neck, which fits because I don't think it ever really came off anyway. But you can very obviously see it was painted in the same green as his shirt and just kind of dry brushed because there's a lot of green on the bag. So I really wish they could have painted that a bit better. The shirt is a nice sculpt. It's that green, but there's some black wash over top of it to dirty it up. He does have some great holes like up here in the shoulder and around on the back, which just makes him look like he's the guy he is, wandering around just dirty and nasty. Short sleeve shirt, so we have his arms sculpted coming out of it, and then we have his hands here. The hands are dirtied up. They have veins coming out of the back of them. I like that they gave his hands kind of an odd sculpt. Like here you can see the fingers are kind of in this weird order as opposed to just being a normal gripping hand. We do have the blood on his left hand here, which is film accurate. But if you look up the wrist, basically the hands are all dirty and gross and detailed, and the rest of the arm's pretty smooth and nothing. So kind of a strange choice not to do more detailing on the arm. We also have his little bone bracelet here, which is a nice little touch and is kind of free flowing on his hand. Coming down to the waist, we have an untucked part of his shirt, which I think is a nice little detail there. See his belt underneath, which is really nicely detailed. We have all the loops, we have the silver buckle on there, even the holes of the eyelets. So really, really nice detail on the belt. All the wrinkles in his pants, you can see the pockets sculpted in. A lot of wrinkles. Mezco also has a ton of wrinkles. Some black dirt kind of dry brushed on there. And then his shoes down here without much detail on them. For articulation, the Hitchhiker has a ball joint at the neck, so you can look pretty far down. But looking up is limited by his hair. You can really really only look straight forward. Rotate his head side to side as well as tilt it. Pin socket shoulders, so it will go forward and back easily as well as out to the side. We have a bicep swivel here right where the t-shirt ends. We have a hinge at the elbow that moves almost 90 degrees, so not too shabby. The wrist will rotate as well as hinge in and out. We have a ball joint here at the waist, so you can move forward, back, side to side a little bit, hindered because that shirt is untucked, and then you could tilt a little side to side as well. I like that they painted the joint underneath green so that when he pulls up, you just see the more of the shirt. I almost would have rather they painted a flesh tone so it looked like his shirt was being pulled up, but because of the way it's sculpted to look tucked in, I guess this works best. And then going down the rest of the body, as is standard with Cinema Fear, no more articulation from the waist down. And here's the Hitchhiker next to the Wave 1 Leatherface from Mezco Cinema Fear, and these two look decent together. I think the Hitchhiker goes for a slightly more realistic style than Leatherface does. By Wave 3 of the Cinema Fear line, I felt like Mezco is trying to drop some of the cartoonishness some of the characters have developed, trying to go a little more realistic, a little closer to what NECA was doing at the time. But these guys still work together, they still look like they're from the same universe, and you'd still believe them as a pair. And then we'll bring in the Hitchhiker's other brother, Chop Top, and Nubbins, which is actually the Hitchhiker after he's been run over at the end of Texas Chainsaw 1 and brought back as taxidermy in Texas Chainsaw 2. You could see the costume similarities outside of the random jacket added to him. I don't feel like the Hitchhiker fits in quite as well with Chop Top here. Chop Top being very cartoony and over the top, and Hitchhiker once again being a little more down to earth. With Leatherface, it was less of a noticeable difference, but here it's very, very obvious that these guys look a little too different. So the Hitchhiker, not only is he one of my least favorite Texas Chainsaw figures, I think he might be one of my least favorite from the entire Cinema Fear line. For the most part, he's not a badly done figure, but there are some major problems with him. The bag around his neck is really atrociously painted, and his facial expression is, I guess in this case, unforgivable. It's just so bad that it pretty much ruins the figure for me. Beyond that, he's just kind of a bland figure. The Hitchhiker is an entertaining and strange presence in the movie, but in action figure form, that maniacalness just doesn't translate all that well. He just kind of looks like a sort of weird looking dude. For the first 3 waves of Mezco Cinema Fear figures, they had 4 figures using the 3 horror properties they had access to: Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Texas Chainsaw. And wave 3 was the second wave where we got 2 different Texas Chainsaw figures in the set. And looking back, Friday the 13th is the only property that never got a repeat within a single Cinema Fear line. I wish they would have put another Jason in on this line instead of the Hitchhiker. Or even that they had that Part 3 Leatherface prototype that never came out. If they only could have gotten that in for Wave 3 instead of the canceled Wave 5, that would have been pretty epic. But overall, the Hitchhiker gets a not recommend. He's just not all that appealing in the least. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. Also check me out on Facebook, link below. And until next time, this has been our Outside the Box Reviews, and Texas Chainsaw Week continues next.